Good morning, my name is Ross Austen. I am a CrossFit adaptive athlete based at CrossFit All on Devon, UK. This morning I am going to take you through the 9 foundational movements with the adaptations that I need to use with my lower limb.
Right team, first up of the movements is the air squat. The athlete must start with a shoulder width stance, and due to mobility issues they can't always get hip crease below knee crease, so you test this out, and then here as you see we've gone hips descend back and down to a target, parallel if achievable onto a box or target. Lumbar curve must be maintained throughout, knees track in line with the toes, and remember the heels firmly down and midline of the foot, and then you complete with a full hip and knee extension at the top of the movement. So remembering then that with adaptive athletes with a prosthetic leg, they do not have the freedom of movement of the knee joint if there is no pressure going through it. So as they sit down, sometimes the prosthetic leg can lift up and drift forward. So as you see here, we've placed a 20kg plate in place to stop that leg lifting up and give the athlete more confidence to drive through the floor. Carrying on from the air squat, we have the front squat. Same setup with the shoulder width stance. Hands will be just outside of the shoulders with a loose finger grip on the bar. Hips will descend back and down to the target you have placed. Same again, parallel if achievable. Keeping those elbows nice and high, keeping that in the front rack position. Keeping the bar nice and tight onto that shelf. Maintaining good balance. Lumbar curve maintain. Heels down, knees in line with toes, and complete a full hip and knee extension, just as the same as the air squat. Here guys, we have the last of the squats in the series. It is the overhead squat, keeping that shoulder width stance, wide grip on the bar, so that's wide snatch grip, shoulders pushing up into the bar with the armpits facing forward. You do this by having an external rotation of the elbows, which puts the armpits facing forward. Hips descend back and down to target, lumbar curve maintain, heels down, bar moves over the middle of the foot, so the midline of the foot. Maintain that good balance, let gravity do its work, and bringing the bar straight down over the center of your body. And then knees in line with the toes, and then you can complete at a full hip and knee extension. Next up team, we're moving on to the presses, so starting off with the shoulder press first. Hip whip stance, hands just outside the shoulders, elbows slightly in front of the bar, just so you can maintain a slight front rack position with a full grip on the bar. Bar moves over the midline of the foot. Key point here is balance due to the lack of toes, so pushing straight through the prosthetic leg and stump. Torso and legs remain static, which could slightly be easier like it is for Rossi, because he can't control his leg as much, so he just has to balance rather than try not to bend his legs. Heels down, shoulders push up into the bar, completing the full arm extension. Second then is the push press, let's say the dip and drive. Unable to do a vertical dip due to the prosthetic leg and it pushing into his hip, he sends his hips back to drop down slightly, which moves the bar off the bar path slightly, but then he uses the hip thrust to drive through the floor and then send the bar up, rather than a vertical dip, which is unachievable for Rossi as an adaptive athlete. The third movement in the presses then is the push jerk, which isn't always achievable for an adaptive athlete. Like Rossi here, you see there's a slight struggle, so he's got the dip and drive, which he uses the hip thrust rather than the vertical dip, and then to drop underneath again he needs to send his hips back slightly just to gain that advantage of dropping under the bar just an inch or two. Won't always be achievable for athletes, like I said. Some people will just have to stick with the push press and just try and get stronger, because the jerk just puts off all the mechanics when receiving the bar, so it's better to get a bit stronger. So team, now moving on to the deadlift. As you see here with Rossi with a setup, he's unable to get that tension in his back and get that S-curve of the spine. This reason being, as you see here with his prosthetic leg, it rides right up into his crotch and his groin and restricts his movement when bending down. To change this then slightly, what he does is when he dresses onto the bar, he places his foot out to the side and brings the bar up and then slides the foot in. This enables him to take the bar from the floor whilst doing the movement. It's slightly off-putting, he has to have a slightly better balance and strength from one leg, but this is the way he can actually get the bar from the floor in order to do the deadlift. Otherwise, he would have to have blocks each side or some sort of platform to rest the bar on in order to get that good back position. So if you see now, his back position at the start is a lot better with the foot out. You see it's a lot more flat. He can engage those shoulders back and down and keep that tension in the centre of the back. Next up then, team, is everyone's favourite, the sumo deadlift high pull. Similar adaptations from before, with Rossi having to slide one leg out in order to deadlift the bar up. As you can see, it's not as wide stance as the sumo deadlift, but this is due to balance with Rossi, due to him only having half a foot, so he has no toes on the right hand leg as well. As you can see, it goes down to a stump, so he's literally just pushing through that one stump like pushing a fist through the floor, so he has to have quite good balance in order to complete the movement. So team, last but not least of the 9 foundational movements, we have the MEDBALL clean. The only adaptations here that we have to use with Rossi is the same as the deadlift, just to slide his foot out to the side, so the prosthetic leg out to the side in order to allow him to get that depth whilst keeping lumbar curve maintained without arching the spine. Also, you could use a plate like as you see here. He's done that as well to just bring it slightly higher so we can keep that tension in the back.
Right guys, so we've taken Ross Austen, lower limb adaptive athlete, through those 9 foundational movements of CrossFit, and now shown you the adaptations he needs to do, or possible adaptations you may need to do in order to complete those movements, or as close to as you can as possible. So I hope that helps. Look out for more videos coming from Rossi on his journey and how he uses his adaptations.